Welcome to this video. Today we're talking about the inner child as a gateway to intuitive knowing. And this is a very, very exciting subject. Anyone watching who has read my book, How to Open the Heart, knows that it tells the story of my experience spending about 8 years learning in a very informal and intense way with an individual who I could call hyper-empathic, an intuitive powerhouse, somebody who was incredibly highly developed and sophisticated in their ability to empathically sense the energy, feel, and understand the energy and emotion of others. And it tells the story, in that book, I tell the story of me developing my own capacity in the same department of intuition, empathic intelligence, and also developing more, the main focus of it is the development of vulnerability and empathy, but it's told, there's many threads that connect it, and it's inescapably also a book about the development of deep emotional literacy, which includes understanding how we are empathic and how we are intuitive, and just part of being an emotionally aware and connected individual encompasses this reality of us being empathic and feeling or intuiting the emotion and energy that's going on in other people, and learning how to understand that so that we can honor that feeling within us, that wisdom within us, and just appreciate the extraordinary majesty of our capacity to feel both our own stuff and other people's stuff. One of the things that I learned to do over the period that I cover in my book is, I guess, read the energy and feel what's going on in other people in broad and more acute ways. And I had an experience actually yesterday of doing this that was just fascinating that I want to share. And this is like a daily occurrence, but because it relates to the subject of the video, I just want to briefly describe it. Basically what happened is a friend of mine wanted me to look at somebody's energy, somebody that they were interested in romantically, and she often will want me to study people's energy because she believes in my intuitive abilities. When she showed me the photo, the initial things that I felt from this person were kindness. They felt like a nice person. They felt simple. They felt like a good person, like they would be compassionate, that they would be understanding, that they didn't have a big ego that would huff and puff and put its petty desires above other people. There was also something else. There was a part of them that for some reason I thought to myself, oh, I hope this person doesn't smoke weed. I could see that being really bad for them. I could see something in them that already exists being that is more volatile and heavy. I could see it being having really bad chemistry with marijuana. And that was something that was just kind of like it just passed through my mind when I was looking at the photo and like examining all the feelings that were coming up. When we talked about my impressions, I shared the general ones, and then at some point she mentioned, oh yeah, they have this person whose photo I was looking at. He has a history of, some pretty difficult personal challenges and issues, and he's not smoking weed right now, so that's a really good thing. And I was like, wait a minute. That connects with something that I felt that was very specific and unusual. And I shared how when I looked at their photo, this part of me was like, oh, I hope this guy doesn't smoke weed because that could go very bad places. And then she was like, what? Because that was part of their life story. And without any previous knowledge just by looking at a photo and feeling the energy in the photo. Somehow I had access to that information. And that's crazy. Like, and this isn't new to me. Like I said, this, the story I tell in my book, chronicles a many years long journey. And that's something that I'm continuing to walk down the path of and learn about and explore within myself. But I never stop being fascinated by it. It's absolutely fascinating that we can feel so much, and that sometimes we can feel things quite specific based on our energy alone. The inner child relates to all of this because I think in all that I've learned, connecting to the inner child is, it seems to me personally, one of the most direct ways to connect to this kind of intuitive or empathic knowingness within us. If I explain what I personally mean, but when I say inner child, then it might become clear why that's such a profound pathway to our deep, honest, empathic sensations and intuitive knowing. To me, the inner child might be I might mean something really different than other people when I use that term. But to me, the inner child is best understood by looking at what we are as children, what a child is. And when a child comes into this world, they're, for a period, very connected to their honesty, to what they feel. They're quite empathic in the sense that they can just feel what's going on with their parents and the environment around them. And they don't filter or withhold. Kids say the darndest things. The child is honest. They're pure. They're vulnerable. They're authentic. They feel things deeply, and they don't disassociate from those feelings yet. They haven't created a mask or a persona that's distinct from their raw truth. And to me, when we understand that aspect of a child, to me, the inner child is that thing that we disconnect from as we grow up. It's that thing that's still alive in us, that never dies. It's in everybody. And given that context, you can see how important it is to reconnect to that inner child, because they're not conditioned. They don't have a belief system. They don't have a ton of shame or baggage that is telling them their feelings are wrong, their feelings aren't true, their feelings aren't good. To connect with the inner child is to connect with our very pure, raw truth in a direct way. And it's in all of us. It's this vulnerable thing, and it's there. And I know that reconnecting to that is a journey. It's a process. And generally, it's not something that happens overnight. It's generally, if someone has like a big awakening experience, generally to be really connected to that part of us still requires this daily practice of learning how to feel our feelings, learning how to feel, our own baggage, our own wounds, our own conditioning, and then the tenderness and vulnerability underneath that, and all of the depth and complexity of its feelings. It's an extraordinary undertaking. It's one of the most beautiful and profound undertakings. One tangible way that I can describe a dynamic with our inner child that you might be able to relate to, some of the people watching this might be able to relate to, is the experience of our mind or our body being extremely attracted to someone, like a potential romantic partner, being really attracted to someone physically or mentally, and yet a vulnerable part of us not feeling safe at all about that person. And this disconnect happening between the mind or the body that wants to rush towards someone, and then this vulnerability, this inner child or the heart or whatever you want to call it that feels like, whoa, 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 danger, danger. Like that's a common experience, that disparity between those two realities. And a lot of people have learned to be like, you know, that danger bell is going off, that vulnerability is freaking out. And then we just go, fuck you. I want what I want. And the, you know, that disconnected adult personality makes the choices at the detriment of our sacred, pure, vulnerable inner child, which, by the way, often has some really valuable perceptions that are worth looking at and listening to. And I guess this has led right into the connection between the inner child and learning how to listen to and feel the inner child and our intuitive knowing. Because circling back to that practice of studying people's energy, or studying someone's energy through a photo, or crossing paths with them on the street, or in whatever environment, when I'm intentionally studying somebody's energy, the first thing that I notice is if my inner child feels like they're nice. There will be this deep, very wholesome, simple, and clear sense in this vulnerable part of me. I'm tapping here just because I have an association with this, but you could feel it wherever. But of my inner child, my vulnerability, my heart, I'll be listening to how it feels. Does it feel safe around that person? Does it feel like they're nice? Does it feel like they're kind? Does it feel like they are warm? Does it feel like their heart is open? Or does it feel like their heart is closed? And if it's open, what are the specifics of that? How does it feel? What's going on there? And if it's closed, what are the specifics of that? What does it feel like? What's going on there? And this is my entry point to that empathic awareness, is that very simple, honest, pure, naked, vulnerable part of me that feels like it predates my wounds, it predates my conditioning. It's so sacred. And sometimes it will see things and not understand. It'll feel things, it'll feel things and not know how to interpret them. And what I mean by this is when a young child, is growing up, that child might feel things in a very raw, open way, and that child's parents might tell it lies or things that aren't really true, that are disconnected from the emotional and energetic reality that it's feeling. So its parents are holding one reality, which is not fully honest, and then it's empathically feeling all of this other stuff that isn't being named, that isn't being talked about, and it doubts itself, and it's so painful, it's so confusing. And that's sometimes why we disconnect from that level of sensitivity within us, because we feel like we're crazy. We don't know what to do. Like, what's going on? We feel this and they say that. What's reality? This is a mind fuck. And stepping back into a connection with that very deep, honest, authentic part of us that feels things so purely, sometimes it requires unraveling a lot, because we might feel something very strongly from that vulnerable place, from that inner child place. And there might be a bigger picture that inner child doesn't see yet, but what it's feeling underneath is real, but there's more going on than it can see or than it understands. And that is one hell of a rabbit hole that I just opened up. However, I feel like I've put my finger on the pulse of what I wanted to communicate in this video, which is that through connecting to our inner child, through connecting to that deep, pure, honest, vulnerable place in us, we can connect with its purity of perception, with its empathic sensitivity, and we can learn to understand those feelings and honor them and hold them and just grow into an honest, authentic, empowered version of ourselves. And I certainly have really only touched on the surface of a very deep subject. So if you liked this video, I invite you to stay tuned, subscribe. I make videos related to this stuff every week. If you liked it, leave a comment, hit like, or just feel good because you liked something. And if you're interested, my book, How to Open the Heart, dives very deep down the rabbit hole of what we're talking about here. Both, I think it like paints a picture of inner child work and connecting to the inner child that's very honest and relatable, and as well as intuition and empathic sensitivity. It goes deep into that terrain. So thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.